leadership aspects, it's a topic that can be overlooked, and I think it would be to our detriment if we overlook it. I know we technically wired and we get our jobs done, we manage the projects, and we commission, which is all great. But in between all those processes, there's this leadership aspect. And as you grow in your industry, you'll find you'll grow also in leadership opportunities, where you not only got to provide technical input, but also a leadership role in bringing others through. And it's a hard matter, where there's a definite approach that needs to be a belief in others and bringing them through. And really, my topic today, I followed a sequence over the last while, but I'm going to bring in something specific that doesn't follow on my sequence, which I can always follow on next time around. But I want to speak about creating. Is it still all right? So you guys can hear me? You can hear me, eh?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm just muting so that the bandwidth will be better.
Perfect. I thought someone was chatting to me. But anyway.
Relax. We're just muting that everybody can be able to hear. Otherwise, the bandwidth becomes too big. And then Perfect. Everybody gets choppy. So it's fine. You can carry on there.
Chris, you know your stuff, eh? Anyways, I actually want to speak about something that came to my attention last week. A friend of mine came to visit me, and I was quite surprised when I heard he went to see a psychologist, actually, in fact, a psychiatrist. And I thought, wow, here's this technical guy that's done a lot in his life. And I said, how did this come about? So he said the observation was that his environment is very stressful. So we all know that, well, let me just end off that story. He got input, and it looks like he's on a positive way forward. But I started to think about it, and let's be honest, all of our environments should have stress, because there's a natural stress. You've got deadlines, you've got profits to be made. It is part of the package of what we do, but it's when there's that added stress that can be avoided. And quite often, not every time, but it could be through how we lead, where we could add additional stress, which is not necessary, because there's a natural stress that we all go through, but we don't want to add those other extras, because that's going to impact on the bottom line, the people we're leading, and then the overall output that we so want to achieve. So with that as an intro, which got me thinking again as to what are those unnecessary stresses that come in our environment. Well, the one that comes to mind, which is pretty clear to all of us, is the aspect of trust. That when we find that, and there's a lot to be said here, I'm just going to say a few things, but we want to lead in a way, and the teams and the people we're working with, that there's a common trust, that we can trust one another in dealing with information and projects, etc. As soon as, if trust is broken, there already is unnecessary stress that begins to build. You keep looking to the left and right, and you can easily be distracted with those kind of things. And so the best is always openness, honesty, done in a very nice way. And there are times when we need to be one-on-one, times when we need to talk into our team concept and team environment. Just be honest of what the situation is, and then you begin to build a strength, and you start to lift unnecessary stresses. The other aspect is a lot where I think South Africa, there's a need, and this forum is fantastic, is equipping those in your team and those that you're leading, equipping them, especially when you see things where there's lacking, not to just overlook that, but to begin to be quite intentional, to raise some of the skills that are necessary. It might be an individual or two, or it could be the whole group. It really depends. If it's an individual, then you can work one-on-one and actually begin to build that. And in the context of registering with ECSA, this is perfectly aligned to what we're doing, that we build up those expertise, and we're in a changing environment, especially in the power industry. We have alternative energy methods. There's a lot of change and a lot of new things coming, and it can become very vulnerable for people. And we just need to adjust and bring in that equipping so that people know where they're going and they can find themselves knowing that, sure, this leader actually does take an interest in me. And I know it is vice versa, that one must also come forward to those that are leading us and say, you, I'm lacking in this area. And it builds on that first point of mine of trust. So the second point was really equipping. And with that equipping is the tools. In other words, we providing the tools so that people can get the job done. And I know there's a cost factor there too, but one has to have a look at that. The third one, which I've already talked about, is the communication, where people know where they're going, they know where they are at and what their role is. If that, you can never over communicate. It's better to communicate that more than enough so that people know, yo, this is where we're going, this is where we're at, this is our deadlines, and nothing coming by surprise. Because if there's too many surprises on the day, this has to be done, or I know there are the spontaneous things, but if there's a lot of that, then one has to look at how good are our systems. Because if you're catching people by surprise and deadlines out of the blue that could have been avoided, it adds that unnecessary stress, and a lot of that is going to cause problems down the road. And then one final thing to build into that is, and then I'm done here, is for today, is administration. To keep looking at that, as your team gets bigger, your organization is growing, which is fantastic, and your job influences are increasing. You've got to keep looking at your administration. How well are you organizing your projects, the things you're doing? And you've got to, again, look at technology, and you've got to keep up with it. And I find that when you do that, you start to lift those unnecessary pressures. So that's my part for today, just to encourage all of us in our journey and in our own personal life, also to lift the stresses, because you can apply it to your own life, not only to those that are in a leadership role. And maybe this is something that is up ahead for you to build in your teams. And finally, to say the two major things in an organization is its people. In other words, it's human capital. And secondly, the data, the information, the knowledge. If you can grow on those two things, then I think you're on your way in being relevant to a very changing world. So thank you for the opportunity. And thanks for that. And over to you, Chris.
Adrian, thanks a lot. But just before Chris carries on, just a comment. You spoke about your friend that went to see a psychiatrist. Now, a lot of us think that you only go and see a psychiatrist if there's really something wrong with you in the head, if you lost a few screws. And that's not the case, Sometimes you need to take extra vitamins because you have a lack of certain things in your body, vitamins or certain stuff that you need that's lacking in your food, and then you become ill and things like that. So the same with your mind. Sometimes there's something lacking, and you just need to add this or that, and you go and see a psychiatrist, and he knows these things, and he can put his finger on it, and it's like a crutch. If you broke your leg, you walk on a crutch for a week or two, and then you're okay again. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just remember that. And if one of your friends are seeing a psychiatrist or scared to see a psychiatrist, as I said, just advise them to actually do it, because it does a lot for you. And I know that a lot of people nowadays, because of the high levels of stress, need to just go and talk to someone and get it off their chest. And that is a lot of what psychiatrists do, is to help you to cope and go on again. Thanks. Chris, are you?
I just want to do one comment there on the stress levels. One thing a person also forgets is you spend a lot of your time at the work and you start to neglect your family. That you must get a balance between your family and your work. And you'll find out your stress levels will actually reduce too. So that is one of the things that I just wanted to make a comment on, Adrian.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you guys say. I think that's, sorry?
Carry on, Adrian.
Yeah, I think your points are very valid. You know, sometimes we have to talk these things out. And I love, Chris, your thing of the balance. I mean, you could work so much that, yeah, you can lose sight of those important matters. So all round, thank you for that. And I wanted to just add another angle. It's not always the leadership that necessarily add the pressure. It's maybe you as an individual, your perceptions, your how you perceive things could be incorrect as well. So both ways could come into play, and it's always good to talk to someone to channel your perceptions could be incorrect as well. So thanks all round for your comments.
All right, can I start you on?
Yeah, let me just try and find the share screen. But
Okay.
Good. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Let me find the little place where it says go for the next slide.
For everybody who doesn't know me, my name is Chris Maynard. I'm a professional technician and technologist. I belong to IPET, SAT, and SAICI. I'm also an ECSA assessor. But today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the alternative route, but just the qualifications. This does not, alternative route does not include qualifications from overseas and that. So what we've done previously, we've discussed what is the requirements for registration. So registration as a professional engineering technologist, post qualifications, the qualifications required for registration. This is on the route that you can go through education, BTech, Eng Tech, Advanced Diploma in Engineering. Also, according to the Sydney Accord, recognized qualifications that are there, that is between the two countries, and ECSA's process of evaluation assessment for foreign qualifications. That is the one will not be discussed in this, but it's basically you submit your qualification, they assess it, they evaluate it, and they will tell you to what it is equal and what route you can follow. And then we talk about what we're going to talk today about is the alternative route. Now, the alternative route is today's discussion. We're discussing the minimum requirements for alternative route to registration as a professional technologist. The alternative route for registration is based on your work experience. The experience benchmark differs for various levels of education. So you can have education there, plus your work experience, and then you can register as a professional technologist. The same is applicable for responsible experience at level E at the level of a broadly defined engineering activity. Level E is where a person takes on a problem solving without support or at most limited guidance. That is what level E means. Okay, the presentation is based on the engineering report form B2-3R. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong slide. Can you skip this slide and go to the next slide, Dion? Okay, with that, no, sorry, that's on a previous one, but the educational requirements. Now, the educational requirements is under Appendix A on page 41 of document R02 STA, PT, PE, PCE, PN, discusses post-qualifications for registration of a professional engineering technologist. There are three categories, qualifications as classified in three categories: the period prior to 1971, period 1972 to 1980, and period post 1980. in this discussion, we are only going to discuss the following periods. Period 1972 to 1980 and period post-1980. Why we're not discussing the one prior to 1971 will not be discussed for obvious reasons. All those people are in the age of 70 and older, and I don't think they would like to register now if they haven't registered. Okay, go to the next slide. Now we'll discuss the period 1972 to 1980. Period 1972 to 1980. In this period, there are various educational qualifications that can be used as alternative route for registration as a professional technologist. The first one we're going to talk is the NCT. It's a National Technical Certificate, or the NND is a National End Diploma. Now that is experience benchmark, which I mean is 10 years, including 6 years of responsible experience in this period. It must be noted that all these experiences and the experience benchmark must coincide to the level of a technologist, which is a broadly defined engineering activity. So then you get the NHCT, is a National Higher Certificate for Technicians. The experience benchmark is 9 years, including 5 years of a responsible experience in this period. So it's a total of 9 years, which 5 years you have to have a level E. Then ID is Intermediate Diploma. Its experience benchmark is 9 years, including 5 years of responsible experience in this period. And the NDT is your National Diploma for Technicians. Your experience benchmark is 6 years, including 4 years of responsible experience in this period. Then you've got your T1 certificate. So it's a T1 certificate. The experience benchmark is 14 years, including 10 years of responsible experience in this period. And then the T1 diploma. T1 diploma's experience benchmark is 13 years, including 9 years of responsible experience in this period. Then you got your T2 certificate. So the T2 certificate is experience benchmark is 12 years, including 8 years of responsible experience in this period. And your T2 diploma is your T2 diploma experience benchmark is 11 years, including 7 years of responsible experience in this period. Now the difference between the T1 and the T2 certificate, the certificate you used to get at the technical college, and your diploma, you got it at your the technicons. Am I correct in that, Johan?
Yeah, I can't remember those. Those are so many years ago. I can't remember how those two worked. But the point is that the T1, the certificate and the diploma were at different places.
Yeah, and it was at your technical college, and the other one was at the Technicon, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the post-1980, which is more relevant to what for all us people that are there. Okay, the post-1980 is the N4, which is the National Technical Certificate Part 4. Your experience benchmark is 14 years, including 10 years of responsible experience in this period. Then your N5 is the National Technical Certificate Part 5. Experience benchmark is 13 years, including 9 years of responsible experience in this period. Then you had your N6, it's your National Technical Certificate Part 6. Experience benchmark is 11 years, including 8 years of responsibility in this period. Then you have got your NTD, is a National Technical Diploma. Your experience benchmark is 10 years, including 7 years of responsible experience in this period. Now your N1, I mean your N4 to N6, you used to do it at your technical college there. Then we're getting to the new certificates, and that is an advanced certificate in engineering technology. The experience benchmark is 8 years, including 5 years of responsible experience in this period. Then you could get also an advanced certificate in engineering practice. Experience benchmark is 8 years, including 5 years of responsible experience in this period. Then you've got your national diploma. That your experience benchmark is 8 years, including 5 years of responsible experience in this period. Then you got your diploma in engineering. This experience is 8 years, including 5 years of responsible experience. This is the diploma in engineering, is the new one. The N diploma is the old diploma. Then you got your diploma in engineering technology. This experience benchmark is 8 years, including 4 years of responsible experience in this period. Then your NHD is a national higher diploma, which is benchmark is 6 years, including 4 years of responsible experience in this period. That is basically all of them, if I remember right. So today, in summary, we discussed in briefly the minimum educational requirements for registration as a technologist at the Engineering Council of South Africa. And the acknowledgement, the presentation is based on the Engineering Council of South Africa's document, RO2 STA PE PT PCE PN Competency Standard for Registration in Professional Categories as a PE PT PCE PN Revision 1, 20th of August, Appendix A, which is on page 41. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes. I think you missed one qualification.
Yes.
And that is, I remember when I was on the registration committee, those many years ago, you would occasionally get a person that didn't do any of these technical qualifications. He had only had a matric, and from there he went on to a site and he was working on a construction site, and from there he worked his way up. And those guys, we required them to have 20 years of experience, of which 10 had to be in a position of responsibility. Now, the interesting
That's correct.
You might
That's
ask,
correct.
why do we have
Can I just come in there, Johan?
Pardon?
They said that is prior to 1971. They didn't put it into these two periods, but I'm still sure that we can allow those people to do the registration.
Yeah, no, just to explain why do you have the different years for the different qualifications. At the time, as I said long ago, when I was on the committee, myself and Terry and a couple of other guys sat down and we looked at each of these qualifications and what went into it, how many subjects you used to do, especially the maths and physics and the technical subjects, and also the amount of time you had to spend in class and the level, at the passing level, the level, if you needed a 50% pass or a 45% pass or a 40% pass. And all those factors are taken into account because we said that for an engineering technician or an engineering technologist, when you work on site, you actually pick up some knowledge. And that is why we expect you to have some practical experience. And on site, you pick up experience, whereas the engineers don't follow that line of thought. They say you have to have the qualification, you have to have the educational background, and you don't pick up the engineering experience on site in the same way as technicians and technologists do. So they don't allow for it, which I think is wrong, but never mind, that's what I think, and it's not what they say. So that is how it works, and that is how we came to those numbers of years. And as Chris said, the guys who had qualifications prior to 1971, they are all past 65, and most of them past 75 already, and not, well, they qualify as to be registered as pensioners with ECSA. Well, you qualify at age 70 for a pensioner registration there. Thanks. Please, if you have a question, put up your hand, unmute yourself and ask. Don't be shy. This is your opportunity.
I have a question.
Yes, carry on.
I'd like to ask, in terms of experience, because I can see that if you have a national diploma, you need to have 5 years experience and then plus 5 years responsibility. I'd like to ask, does your experience start from your in-service training, or in-service training is something else on its own? It's part of your qualification.
No, your in-service in training does qualify because you need 8 years of experience with 5 years of responsibility.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, responsibility, what it means is level E, which is your where you're actually working on your own, or you have limited guidance. If you remember what I said to you in this slide right in front, to say the level of its problem solving without support or with limited guidance, that is your 5 years that you need to be able to do that. Does that answer your question?
Or like, for instance, if you're forming site to do like the setting out on your own and stuff, that's the limited guidance.
Yes, just make sure that you understand what is broadly defined engineering activity. You see, the difference is there. A broadly defined engineering activity is on not a well-defined engineering activity, which is classified for technician. A broadly defined engineering activities basically is on a higher level, and you take responsibility of what you do and how you design everything, and you make sure that it does classify. That is written in RO2 PT. You know, that document STA PT. What is the characteristics of a broadly defined engineering activity, and what is the definition for that? I did discuss that on some previous slides back. You can ask Johan to send it through to you.
Okay, no, clear. It last time answered.
Yeah, have you got a diploma, national diploma?
Pardon?
I say, do you have a national diploma?
Yes, I have a national diploma in building, which is quantity and construction management, and half of the modules for QS. But the thing is, when I'm counting my experience, I'm not even sure whether to start from my in-service training going forward, like after my first qualification or what. That's where the problem started, because it seems as if, like, when you're applying, they don't count the in-service training. They count the in-service training as part of your qualification.
Yeah.
It does get counted, but I would like to see, as an assessor, I would like to see that also. Because the reason why I want to see that is to see how you developed. Because that helps us as assessors to look at a person's development, of how he developed his career, how he went up from starting from the ground level and getting to the position that person is in a high position. Because many people make the mistake of just saying, this is where I did. If you do your in-service training, you also write it there. You write it's in-service training. That does get taken into account to see how you actually developed over into the level of where you are now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But in-service training is usually at a well-defined level where you're working under supervision, that you're not allowed to work on your own and take responsibility. So usually the guys like the assessors like to count from the experience as post-qualification experience. They don't particularly like to count the number of years as that you've done during your in-service training, because they say it's part of your qualification, as you said. But you see, some of the assessors, they don't necessarily always apply the rules the same way. Fortunately or unfortunately.
What I like to see is actually how the person started, because like your in-service training, you're right there, it's in-service training, and that falls under level A, which is assisting in. And that helps to see if you, how you developed and how you went further on. And because if you, a lot of people just write about their post-qualification, their education, and how their training is, but they forget to tell you what they've learned in the in-service training, because everybody gives in-service training is not the same quality by everybody. Sometimes it's very good quality where you actually not assisting, you're actually going to level B where you get more responsibility while you're doing in-service training. So these are the things I have to take into consideration when I'm looking at your application.
Mpumi, unmute yourself. You've got a question. I see you've got a hand up.
Yes, thank you very much, sir, and good day to everyone. I'd just like to check, what if you've got maybe a different qualification, for example, BSc in water and sanitation, and you further did some other modules that are not covered, the engineering modules, which are not covered maybe in the degree itself, the level of experience, how many years of experience should you have for you to qualify as a technologist?
Okay, that will be basically, you say you got a BSc in civil and in sanitation and water.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that will be the same as the BTech, if I'm not mistaken. But you can always submit your qualification to ECSA for evaluation, and they will tell you. But if I'm not mistaken, I've had a few of them that's come across, and they said they are equal to your BTech and higher. So you can do the normal 3 years with 1 year experience on level E.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Okay, and then if you've got other subjects that you did that is not in your curriculum, you must put it in with your degree then to get them to evaluate that.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have to stick to questions on the qualifications. If you have any other questions on your registration or something that you don't know while you were filling in your forms that you have a question about, you're welcome to ask. Mpumi, if you don't have another question, just take your hand down. Rosina?
Yeah, Chris, I have a question. I remember when I was in Department of Water long back, persons having national diploma qualification with working as a 10 years as an engineer was they registered. I remember number of my colleagues, diploma, national diploma, 10 years experience as a engineer, professional engineer.
Yeah, okay. Basically, that we said there is he's got a national diploma. So then it's, if I remember, let me just quickly go back and see. If I remember, it's right. It is 6 years, including 4 years of responsibility.
Yes.
So if he's got 10 years experience and he's got, and it's at the level of broadly defined engineering activity, you can go and apply according to the alternative route.
Okay.
So that is not stopping them, anybody there. They must just make sure that they are working at the level of a broadly defined engineering activity.
Yeah.
Well, we can see now got a lot of people here. I just want to know, how many of you have applied already, or has everybody got diplomas or BTECs?
Sorry, Chris, I don't understand your question.
I say, how many of the people that are here who have got diplomas, or have they got BTECs, have they applied for registration yet, or are they busy applying? I just want to see a show of hands. And how many want to go the alternative route? Okay, we got Fila and Mapumi that is doing the alternative route or doing the direct route. I see Fila and Becky, do you want to ask a question? Unmute yourself.
He's got a national diploma.
He's got a national diploma.
Hi,
Yes.
it's Pila, and I
Pila,
don't
yeah.
really have a I don't really have a question, but I have a BTech in civil engineering transportation. I did apply the straight route, went for an interview, and I'm supposed to fill in a 1-year design experience report now, because my application was unsuccessful. So I just wanted to hear what would be different with this alternative.
But you've got the qualification, so you don't need to go the alternative. Now I can give you advice. I know transportation, the guys that do transportation engineering, they battle to actually discuss a designing. Am I correct?
Yes.
And it's quite easy. I can give you advice how to go about it. You know, a lot of people think, you know, if you do transportation, it's just computers and that. What you must do is you take an intersection that you've designed or a road that you've designed. You discuss your model that you set up, of how you set it up there. You know, I know you're using a computer model. You discuss the computer model. You discuss, especially under the first one, what was the problem? Why did you have to redesign this road or this intersection? What was the cause of the problem? That you discuss. You discuss how you got all your information together. Where did you get your information? Who did you discuss with? You know, what interaction did you have with all the other, you know, disciplines? Because if you're doing a road, I know the transport engineers are very much like the structural engineers. They know everything. They don't want to talk to the other engineers in other fields. Am I correct?
Not quite.
Yes. But you're not on your own, because remember, when you're doing a road design, you also want to know from a surveyor what is there. You do your vehicle counting. You also look at your boundaries to see if it's going to fit the road, because you don't want to go and do an intersection or road widening and then you find out you have to take half the shopping center away. These are the things that you discuss with. These are the people you interact with. You don't want to go and build a road through a flay area, you know, a wetland. Then you're going to have a major problem. So you discuss it with your environmental people. You discuss with your client. These are the interactions that you have to take into account. And then when you do your design, you look at alternatives. You usually look at two or three different models. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. Yes, Chris.
So you tell them about that in your report. You're looking at these models. This is a model. This is why I chose this model. It's because due to finances or due to constraints of the area. Why did you choose it? You write down the reason. That you most probably didn't do it explain in the interview. Am I correct?
Yep.
So you have to broaden your mind to think out. And then when you do your design, you say, yes, I used the computer model, but what checks did you do? Did you do any hand checks, hand calculations? These are the things you have to look at. You say, yes, I did this hand calculation. I used the rule of a thumb calculation, which is not incorrect neither. What you have to prove to us is how you got to your assumption, how did you get to it, and what did you do to get there? Why did you choose this? What did you do that? And then also there was section on environmental, and that I think it is outcome 6. Usually the guys fail on that too, because they don't work with cultural and that. If you don't know it, don't be stressed out. You go and talk to your colleague who has that experience and you write it in your report there. I haven't had the experience, but my colleague had this experience, and I spoke to him, and this is how they sorted it out.
All right.
So don't think it's a blank wall that you. What we want to see is, how do you think out of the box? If you've got a problem, how are you going to solve it? You're not going to sit there and cry about it and look at your manuals. You've got your guidelines, but they're there. How do you change it? How do you work outside the guidelines? Guidelines are guidelines. If you're a technician, you get stuck in those guidelines. You can go out, but you have to give a reason. Same with technologists. We actually think out of the box. So I think that, I don't know if that helps you a lot in understanding now.
It helps a lot, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
Actually,
think
listening
about
to
that.
us.
You don't think because you're doing transportation, you're just doing traffic count. There's a lot of things that get involved. Who gets involved with you there? Think about it. You do a traffic count, you do a road widening. Who gets involved? Your town planners, all those people. What decision you make affects everybody. That's what we're talking about, interrelationship with everybody.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hopefully it's broadened your thinking now, because I see you were stressed when you started.
It has. It has been. Thank you very much.
So good luck. I think you'll get it right, my dear.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the other people? Thanks. Anybody else? I see the guys are a bit scared, but don't be scared. There's never a stupid question.
This is what we're here for. We're here for to answer your questions, even if you think it's a bit of a stupid question. To someone else, it might be a huge problem. So please, if you have any question, then put it forward. But when you are writing up your experience report, don't just say, I was involved in this and that, the next thing. Anybody was involved. The student was involved there, did his P1. On the first day, he was involved in it as well. The point is, you need to show what you've done, what responsibility was delegated to you, and what engineering principles you used to do a design or to make a decision. Why did you come to that decision? Not just say, I designed a pump house. Oh, so what? What did you design in the pump house? Did you design the foundations? What structural design was involved? How did you come to the pipe sizes? How did you decide on the pump? If you designed the whole thing. The pumps, it's usually a mechanical thing, but never mind. If you're civil, a lot of civil guys are taught to do it, and you say how you decide on the pump, and all those things. There's so many aspects that you need to say, why did you make those decisions? Or did you just say, oh, well, that other pump house there was like that, I'm just going to make it the same size? That's not engineering. That is monkey see, monkey do type of thing. I've heard funny stories in my life of people that have submitted plans for multi-story flat buildings for some municipality that goes to where another job is done, and they measure the size of the rebar and the spacing and all that, and then they draw it accordingly. Meanwhile, they don't actually design it, and they don't know whether it's right or not. So that kind of thing happens, and if that thing fails for some reason, then you're really in for the high jump. So, but that is usually people that are not registered that do those funny things. So yeah, say which engineering principles you used, why you used it, and how you came to your decision, and why you discarded certain other possibilities, because there must be a reason, not just because your boss said so. So please, any case, more questions.
I just want to know, is there any guys working in construction? that have had no experience in consultancy. Yeah, in our group. Because I see there's a lot of guys also, they battle, especially the guys who did construction management in their BTech. They've got the idea that, or they've been working for contractors their whole life. They don't, and they say they have to resign and they have to go and get design experience as by a consultancy. You don't have to, because if you're a contractor and you're a site agent or contracts manager, drawings get given to you. You check those drawings and you see something is not right. You see the design does not make sense, or the calculations don't add up to your calculations. When you check, you are actually still designing. So don't think that you're not designing. And you make your recommendations. As Johan says, you say, excuse me, why you take this approach, what was your assumptions, what were your parameters that you used, and how did you get to that? And you saw different various options, and why did you choose this option to give to the consultants to say this is the better way of working, which you are also designing. So it's not just you're just building what the what the consultants tell you. You look at the designs and you decide if it is correct or not, and you query it. Okay, any other questions for the guys there? Sanila? I see you say you BTech, I'm busy with my application. What is the...
Okay,
have you got a problem?
Are you back with us?
Sanlina, I see you say I'm busy with my application. Have you got any problems with your application for BTech, for your registration as a professional technologist? And since she's disappeared.
No, Sanella was out and she came back again.
Yeah.
Looks like Sanella has a very nice car.
Yeah. Adrian.
Yes.
I just want to know, your guys at where you working at, are they registering or are they battling to register?
No, the guys are busy with it. Yeah, there's guys that have registered. Then there are those that are in process. But it seems like it's probably getting harder now. I think there's interviews involved. Where guys have to go through interviews, and that scrutiny is part of the process. So yeah, there's some being registered, and there are others that are in process.
Oh.
I don't know if I'm helping you now, but I get the feelings you gotta, which is probably a good thing. You're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to do it accurately, and with excellence. Well, I think you need to do that every time, but I think the scrutiny is greater. That's just my thoughts, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, why we do that now is because in the past they used to, actually there were a group of people used to write the reports for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get registered and they in practice, then you think, hey, there's something wrong here. You know, there's a major problem because they, and it is also to keep the public safe, because if you do the design, we have to ensure there's public safety involved. And if you make...
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I think that's really good. That's 100% that there is that. Because at the end of the day, it's the safety of the public, especially, well, in all of our engineering disciplines, there's a safety aspect. So, and one has to make sure that the professionals we're releasing and we're registering are at that level. You know, in my field, you can't make a mistake, because if
Yeah.
there's a mistake, that could be your last day. So it's very important to get it right. So yeah, that's I'm 100% for it, and I do understand that, and that just brings about the importance of these sessions and being that professional that one needs to be in accumulating the experience, recording it, and following all those pointers of problem solving, actually solving the problem, coming with the solutions, looking at the environment. We know those pointers. So, but all good. I do see a trend now where there is a greater focus to register, which is good. So that's also I find happening more and more need for help. I'm finding more guys wanting help, which is great. Great
Yeah.
to see.
You know what is, I remember, you know, when I started working, if you worked at the municipality and you actually started in the drawing office as an assistant to the draftsperson, and then you started designing, and then from there on, you worked your way up to become an engineer or a technologist or a technician on the level that you want. By the time you got there, you actually knew. But I see the municipalities nowadays, they uh, allow the people in, they don't train them well, and then they make them managers over plenty. And that's where we got a problem on our service delivery, especially, you know. And about public safety, we'll use a simple example. You know, if you put a water pipe in, people think, no, water can't do much damage. But if it's not the right class and and it gets under pressure, it bursts, the damage it can cause, and it can kill people at high pressure too. So these are the things that a lot of people must understand to become a professional in either technician, technologist, engineer is not just given out to anybody. We are all proud of what we've got and where we are now.
Yeah, that's very well said. Absolutely. And interesting,
Yeah,
you've got a drawing office. Yeah, that's it's been functioning for many decades, and it fulfills an important role. The actual designing and drawings,
yeah,
and that really is one of. I think I mentioned it earlier. The data that your company has is crucial, and the drawing office is quite often the place where we store our information and our data and our specifications, etc. So a lot to be learned there, and a lot to learn, and one can't rush it. You know, there's no shortcuts. It's step by step, and those foundations are so key because you build on foundations. And
yeah.
so I can't agree more. And I think this is good for the country, you know, to get all of these things together, because we've got a whole educational process, and this is the actual final stage, as it were, the experience, the skills to
Yeah.
apply to apply those academics at a professional level. So all is good, I think. So
Yes, what else also, you know, what I've done interviews with a lot of guys that are in municipality or in government departments that are managers, and what I find is lacking is their design experience. But they must not say they have to resign and go and work for consultancy or another company. While they're there, they should actually look at those designs that have been submitted by the consultants and see if it is correct. If it's not just using the guidelines of the municipalities as a tick box, they should actually look at the design and say, yes, it does work, and here are my calculations, and that is fine. They should actually write that down in their reports in approving it to these, to the higher people, or where they say they approve it and they make their notes and gets filed. That is also designing on its own. I don't know if you agree with that, Johan and Adrian.
No, I agree. You have to prove that you are capable of doing it and that you have done it and that you have had it checked. That's the other main thing, is make sure that even if you've done all these fancy designs on your own, that you can prove that they were actually checked, because you can so easily make a mistake, and a mistake can cause people to get very badly injured or die, and that is that's a mistake is something that most of us do. As long as you
Correct.
learn from them, as I was saying to someone else the other day, as youngsters we made mistakes that cost our employers uh, lots of money. So that is why we are where we are today. We've learned from our mistakes.
So what we say is, it's not millions that time, it was thousands. And 1,000 rand compared to nowadays is over R1 million a time. You know, in those days. I see Pumi has asked the question, any advice for people who are working at the municipality, because most of them are having challenges in registration. Pumi, just come in and just ask what you want to know about that, what challenges you're finding.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Because most of them, you'll find that maybe they are managers or they are technicians. For example, because I'm under Waterfield, they are technicians for or managers for water and sanitation. And then, but partially, you guys have covered some other parts that, you know, maybe also checking the design and also approving and doing calculation as well. You know, because we know that municipalities, most of them, before they implement the projects, it will, you know, consultant will be actually responsible for that project, even with project management aspects, they will be doing that for monitoring the projects. Hence, most of them, they're having challenges. So that is why I just, you know, raised the question, what is it that maybe they can do, or what is it that they may include for their applications, you know? Because on the transportation one, you were very loud and clear, and it was quite helpful. So yeah, that is why.
Okay, now on water and sewage or whatever, any, you know, municipal manager in civil or in electrical or mechanical, you know, they're there in a position to check the consultants, what is written there. And many of them are using just the tick box system. You know, this is what the municipality requires. But they should use the tick box system, but they should also look at the design, because consultants tend to also over design because they can get a lot of money. Did also, for instance, if you're doing a township, for instance, you're doing a township for a developer, did the consultant ever take into consideration of future developments that can be connected to that? 99% of the people don't. This is why we get these problems later on. If there is to be a further development, then we come into the bulk contributions. Why does a bulk contribution be given there? Why are these things? And this is where you, even if you're working in a municipality as a manager, you look at the design, you see these things. It's not just ticking off. You do your own design, you do your own checks. You are designing yourself also. That can be submitted in your report to say, this is the one that was submitted to me as a consult by the consultants. I looked at this design. This is what I found was incorrect. And this is what I suggested. And I had these alternatives and I decided this is the best route to follow. And I explained it to the consultant. You have done your design. You've completed part 1 and outcome 1 and 2 of your report already. Even as a municipal manager, a manager at the municipality on whatever the position you're holding. Hopefully that answers the question there. Yes?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah.
So it's helping you to understand. You have to actually, when you're filling in these forms and your registration, you got the guidelines there. They're guiding you, but you must show what you have done to think out of the box, how to get the things going. How did you do? You're a manager. If you're managing people, you're managing designs, you're managing everything. How did you go about it to get it working? because you're not just sitting a manager, you're just signing a few forms, you've got people working under you. You look at the designs, you look at the alternatives, you do your checks, and you find that if something is not right, you change it. And you say, this is my recommendation. Do you agree? And why you recommend? So you've done your design in that field.
Adrian, you've got a hand up?
Yeah, I think Chris has covered it very well there with going through the designs. And what you find, and I've heard this from mentors helping candidates in registering, where they've noticed that some municipalities, they don't always have all the resources, so they would outsource quite a lot of the work, and then you would perhaps lose that opportunity. However, if you do go through the designs, as Chris mentioned, then you can accumulate that information. But the long and short of it is a municipality can offer a very wide range of understanding. I know we're covering a lot on your guys' side, like transportation, water, and I know in our metro, there's such a wide range that one can gain from. The other aspect is that depending on where you are situated, with the bigger municipalities, it's, well, I know in our space, yeah, we try and help out with the smaller municipalities from time to time. And so you might find there are candidates that maybe we assist, and they may not be based at our municipality, but assist with other types of projects that maybe the smaller municipalities are not involved in. So there's also that could come into effect. But overall, I think there's a lot of scope in going through that. And then if you in a section perhaps and you've been there for a long time, it's also good to ask, can you also have exposure to other opportunities? Because I know in our environment, there's a renewable energy section, there's the planning, there's the transmission, protection. There's a whole spread of opportunities, but one has to coordinate that, and hopefully you've got a mentor that can say, okay, why don't you be exposed to this and that? And I think ECSA enjoys that. Well, you'll know, Chris, as an assessor, if you've had exposure to different skill sets, it does help. I think if you're just on one skill set, that might be to your detriment. So those are just some ideas. And Chris, I know you covered quite a bit of it as well.
Okay. Thanks, Adrian. But what I want to just say, add on to the, you might be working in water and sewage, section in the municipality. Go and look at the road section. Why are they covering it with those different layers? Why are they doing bitumen there? Why are they putting the curb there? What is the cause if they put it a different way? Why is there a stormwater? Is it going to clash with your service? These are the things, even if you go and look at the geotechnical, all the trouble is with engineering, especially I'm talking about civil, but not just civil, but electrical, mechanical, all this is intertwined together. A good example is when they sent the man on the moon, the men to the moon. It wasn't just civil that was working there. It wasn't just project managers. Everybody had a part to get to the end product. So always think of it in that way. Everybody works together to get an end product. If you're in a municipality, your roads doesn't work on its own. Water doesn't work on its own. Sewage doesn't work on its own. Electrical doesn't work on its own. The mechanical side doesn't work on its own. The chemical side that you've also got in the municipality at the purification works don't work on its own. They all work together to give a service to the community. So think broadly out in that sense. I don't know if you agree on that, Johan and Adrian.
No, I see Webster has
I think
a question.
Chris, sorry.
Yes, come in, Adrian.
I think 100%. If I could just put myself in a youngster's shoes, it can become threatening when you start out and there's very experienced people. And in engineering, it can be intimidating because it is knowledge-based for one, and then it's the practical outworking, and you can feel that intimidation. And that's why I'm always promoting mentoring, to try and phase people into situations and link people and ease them in. It's always an advantage. So that can be a thing, and I would encourage those that are just starting out to find someone to help them get into situations. If they don't, well, you just got to be brave. Got to be brave and show interest, and then people can lead you. So that's just my extra.
Yeah, well, I can say it's much different nowadays compared to when I started. You started, you had the old guys there, and they just said to you, you do it this way. Nowadays, the guys tend to explain it better to you, and they tend to take you under their guidance. In that time when I was started, it wasn't easy. All right, I think we can, Webster, let's answer your question there. As I understand, you got your graduation in 2018, but you wrote your last exams in 2017. Am I correct? Webster?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Basically, it's if you, they will, because you have to show, you usually give your graduation, plus you give your printout to say that you passed and when was your last exams you wrote. So we take that into consideration also. So it's not necessarily when you get your BTech. If you got all your subjects and you see you didn't, then we usually take it, we can also use it in 2017 or 2018. It's dependent on when you wrote, basically it's your last subject you wrote. Because we know there is sometimes a period where you got a long period of time before you get your BTech, because they have to get enough people to go for the graduation. So
the university actually will give you a letter saying that you have qualified and that your the graduation will be in 3 months' time. So make sure that you take that letter and you submit that, because that shows the date that you have qualified. When you have qualified and your academic record obviously also shows that you have qualified, and that you have all the credits for the qualification. So that is what is taken into account, and make sure that you write it into your application and say, my 3 years started on such and such a date, see my academic record. Make sure that you make the assessors aware of the situation. If you have only have 3 years, the point is that the 3 years is a minimum.
Yes.
You need to look at how the assessors need to look at how mature the person is. Is he working on the level? When I was on the committee, we found a lot of times that people thought that they had to register after 3 years, which is not true. As I said, it's a minimum. We used to look and say, fine, this guy was only delegated responsibility after, after 3 years. Maybe he's had 5 years of experience. And then you see, no, but he was only actually delegated responsibility later on, not after the first 2 years. So it depends on the guy who's a high flyer usually gets delegated responsibility earlier on than most of us. So the 3 years, yes, it's a minimum, but most of us register after 4, 5, 6 years, are only ready for registration then. So make sure where you are and whether you feel confident that you are on the right level. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, there's a bit of echo. I'm just moving a bit. In my case, like I had indicated on my question there, I started off as a draftsman, and I was working full-time as a draftsman. And then around 2011, 2014, I was still employed as a draftsman. But midway, whilst I was doing my diploma, I was more of doing technician roles. And then my BTech, I started it in 2017. I did it in 2016 and 2017. So along the way, I felt that there's been quite a couple of responsibilities, which I feel at this stage, my confidence is a bit high. So we were discussing, you know, when laymen are discussing things that they are not really involved in, that is the 3-year period, which is the minimum. Hence, I raised that question that because some people would then graduate in December still, yet the last exam was the previous year in November, and I was working full time and studying part time throughout the entire period.
Okay, can I just come in there, Webster? I've
Thank you.
had cases there where people have been working as technologists and they get their BTech, but they've had about 3-4 years experience, even longer. Some of them have 6 years experience as working as technologists, and they were studying for their BTech. And then they get their BTech and they apply for that same year when they got their BTech, but that gets taken into consideration your experience as what we discussed there.
Okay.
Your minimum requirement is your BTech to go in that route without the alternative route. But we look at your experience to see, okay, you had a level, you were practicing at, you were working at the level of a broadly defined engineering activity, although you didn't have your full BTech. That gets taken into considerations there too.
Okay, perfect.
So it's not a fast and easy rule, but as Johan discussed it there and he said, it's better to have the BTech and the minimum of 3 years. But I find a lot of the guys that just got 3 years, as Johan says, they do not get the full experience that they need.
Yes.
They do not get the maturity that they need. Usually 4 or 5 years, the guys have got the maturity. It depends on yourself, how well you want to go and how far you want to go with it in the 3-year period. Because if you look at the criteria that is written there for 3 years, you are just touching on a few of the issues, but you're not getting the maturity that you need.
No,
So
I think
hopefully that answers your question there. But look at the RO2 PT, RO2 STA, that there, and then also look at RO8 PT, where it discusses what is the criteria and what the assessors use to assess you.
No, that is perfect. Thank you very much, Chris.
Okay, thanks a lot, Webster. Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, I see there's another one, Arcona. I see you talking about advanced study for while a candidate with the RO4P on the research degree. Can evidence obtained during the research-based degree used when applying for professional registration? It depends on what you want to researching on there and what experience you're picking up there. Can you just explain what research you're talking about there?
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
I'm doing research. The title of my research is Overcoming Durability Problems with Dolorite when it is used on base course.
Okay. And you are project-based also, and you're doing the research and you're doing designing according to that.
Yes, it's for my master's.
Yes, and so you just did it straight after your BTech or a few years later, if I may ask?
I beg your pardon?
Did you do your research straight after your BTech, or did you do a bit of work experience and then you went and did your research for your master's?
No, I didn't do it exactly after my BTech. After my BTech, I've obtained a little bit of experience. I attempted the professional registration on ECSA, but due to insufficient design experience, my application was not successful. So I started pursuing
can I just ask you something there quickly? You were saying not sufficient design experience. Who did you work for? At that time when they did client did?
I'm working for consulting engineers. I'm based on roads.
Yes. What I'm saying is you said when you applied, you weren't successful because due to design experience. Who were you working? Were you working for the same company now or not?
Yes, I was working for the same company I'm
Okay.
working for.
And you were
Then my
designing
challenge,
roads.
yes. And then my challenge is that ever since I received the feedback, which was mainly based on my design experience, I've never been exposed to design work again, so as to improve.
Just tell me briefly, what did you do in design work? I mean, in that company before you did your busy with your master's research now. What did you do before?
Okay.
Just briefly. Just briefly.
In fact, I revised a road design. Yes, it was the upgrading of a road, which is a single-way carriageway to a double carriageway. It was an existing design that was done years ago. So my responsibility was to revise it. But during the time of the revision, I had no experience in design. So I was battling to understand the software for the status. Yes.
In your BTech, you did road design. You did pavement design and asphalt technology or not?
I didn't do asphalt technology. My BTech is urban engineering.
And what was one of the subjects? Was it pavement design?
Yes, I did pavement design, and I also did the geometric design.
Okay, so that solves the one problem there. Basically, that reviewing a design, you approach it like this: you look at the design, you see why and what information did you gather to widen it. Why did you widen it, or did they tell you to widen it for you? Were you told to widen it? Hello?
Hello, I can't hear you properly. Sorry.
I say, when you looked at the reviewing of that design, were you told to widen it, or did you actually go and look at it and see if you had to widen it or not?
Okay, the widening was the request by the client. And in fact, I think it was based on the traffic counts that was done before the design. Then it was established that the road needs to be widened in order for it to accommodate the current traffic and the future traffic for the next certain period of years. So widening the road was...
So basically, as I understand it, you were given the information, you didn't actually source the information, am I correct?
Correct.
That's where the problem comes in. That's why they said you had to design. Although the information was given to you, did you ever verify the information? That is where you come in now, to look at it and your design. You verify it and you see if it is correct, and who did you use to verify and how did you verify the information. These are the things that comes into play as a technologist.
Okay.
You understand where I'm coming to now? That's why I'm asking you.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's where you lacked. That's why they said you didn't have the design experience.
Okay.
But you must always look at it. And what I'm telling everybody, when you're looking at a situation like you've got now, or even you get information given to you, you don't just follow it. You actually go back and you see, why is it there? Is it verified? Is it not verified? If it's not verified, you go and verify it yourself too. These are the things. There are so many checks to do, checks and balances. That's what we do as technologists. We get information given to us, but we don't accept it as that. Technicians, they accept it and they design. technologists think out of the box in that sense there. Hopefully I'm helping you understanding what I'm coming to now.
Yes, 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 I get
Now
it.
with your research on the dolomitic material on a road, you can use that as your design also. To say, you're using this dolomitic material, I looked at the various levels of degrade, what you call it, degrading of the material that becomes wet. You know what I'm talking about when we're coming to dolomitic material. It becomes a material dissolves up, and then you can actually float this stuff on water, which we call wet. But you know, you look at that way there, and you
All
say
right.
to them, what did you look at? How did you go about it? How did you assemble your information?
Okay.
Who did you interact with? Which disciplines did you interact with? You interacted with, for instance, does the dolomitic material get sealed with bitumen or something like that? You understand where I'm coming to now?
Yes.
You think broader than what you're thinking now. Take your blinkers off. I'm telling everybody, take the blinkers off and see the world around you in engineering. That works every time.
Okay, okay.
Hopefully, I'm not
Thank
fighting
you.
with you. I'm just telling you people how to think, you know. We think out of the box. You know, structural guys, transportation guys keep on the blinkers. Water guys keep on the blinkers, only water. But they don't look at the other sides of everything. You know, how does it interact with each other? What are the consequences? These are the things that we want to see as technologists when we do the interview with you people, you know, the applicants. So you see the implications of how the things are interacting, how are you going about, how are you going forward. Hopefully it does answer your question there.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Hopefully I haven't given you a fright of your life here.
I'm fine. I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, good luck. Eh?
Thank
you can use that information. Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Radia. Anybody else?
You still got a hand up. Is it an old hand or is it a new question? Please unmute yourself before you talk.
Webster?
No, that's an old hand up, I think.
Okay. You're saying hi or just saying bye?
Guys, if there's no more questions, we're going to start wrapping up. So if you have more questions, you're welcome to ask.
Okay, I just want to say one thing wrapping up here while we're going to close up. Please, when you're looking at designs and you look at the ECSA form, don't just think of it with the blinkers on that you have to be consultants. If you're a contractor or a manager, think out of the box. Look where you did your design. Look where your stuff is, where you got your information. How did you get about it? That's what we want to see, is how you go about to get your information, how you go about to getting your decisions on designs. And if you haven't worked with cultural or social elements that you haven't encountered, go to somebody that has, in your colleagues that has encountered, speak to them. It's not bad to write there, I haven't encountered in your application, in your engineering report, you say, I haven't encountered this, but my colleague encountered these problems of social, economical, and environmental, and this is how he solved it. It's not stealing, you admitting that you don't know, but you know about it, and you've read about it, and you went to find out. That counts a lot. And also, the one question where everybody gets a problem is the legal and regulatory, statutory and legal and regulatory requirements. And there is written OHS. Don't just discuss OH. There's other factors, other requirements that are there. Your CIDB, which is to do with your documentation of your drawing up of your tender document, your NEMA Act, your water license, your employment agent, your employment act. Everybody walks past the employment act in their office on the boards, but nobody takes notice of it. They only take notice of it when they get a problem with the employer. That is also there. Your application by the Department of Labor for your permit. These are the things you have to name. So look up those. If you don't know, speak to one of your colleagues that has got that experience, that you can write it in the report and read about it. You will get asked questions about it, but you won't have to know why it is there. You must be able to say what the NEMA stands for. Why do you have to have a water license? What are the requirements? These are the minor little things. So hopefully it'll help you guys there in your application. And I think whoever is doing the application now, good luck. And think without your blinkers on, please. Okay, Johan.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'm going to stop the recording if I can find it.